aided and semi-aided, count and percentage, and max I do a cross tab. How many male are from Western region? How many male are from aided college? That cross tab. That's it. So I hope you got the idea that nothing much can be done in this kind of. My question to you all is, whether teaching in aided college, yes or no? Which kind of data is this? Do you teach in aided college, yes or no? Which kind of data is this? Again, nominal, because yes and no has no relevance. It is just the name. So again, you cannot do anything else, but you can just find the percentage. How many of them said yes? How many of them have said no? You cannot find out mean score in yes and no. Now tell me here, which kind of data is this? Do you think this is an interval data? अभी आया था ना, मैम ने बोला था इंटरवल, देखो 21 से 30 इंटरवल है, 31 to 40 इंटरवल. No. Interval data or a scale data is a data where we assign them the intervals, and that interval, this is not the interval. This is ordinal. There is an order. Somebody who falls in the category from 21 to 30 is younger than 31 to 40. 31 to 40 is younger than, so there isn't some sequence. In this, there was no sequence, like male, female भी पहले लिख सकते हैं, हर बार पहले लिख सकते थे, वेस्टर्न नीचे आ सकता था, but here we cannot do that. There is some ascending descending order, and we say it is an ordinal data. So once there is an ordinal data, what you analysis can you do? Count percentage, and you can find the order of something. You can say that somebody who is earning a per month income from 25 to 50 has maybe have a less standard of living than somebody who has 50 to 75, or somebody is more rich or poor, something. Somebody is more educated once with their PhD, UG is less educated, something like some inferences you can draw still. Correct. But in education, UG, PG, PhD, and professional, it automatically comes to nominal. It will not stay here as an ordinal data, because profession is one of the category. You cannot compare PG and profession as something like that. It's an education system that is giving you a certification. Question. Next question. So you got to know two data. One is nominal, one is ordinal. Order, something has an order. Now we are moving to the question. Are you satisfied with the workshop? Yes or no? Which kind of data is this? When I asked you, are you satisfied with the workshop? Yes or no? Are you aware about this? Yes or no? Do you have a perception for this? Yes or no? You are diluting the essence of the responses. What will respondents will do? Either take on yes or no. What max you can do here? Count percentage. That's it. But what if you ask somebody, rate the satisfaction level for the workshop on this intervals, this highly satisfied, to satisfied, to neutral, to dissatisfied, they have an equidistance, hence we say it's an interval, equal distance, like 5 as an highly satisfied, 1 as an highly dissatisfied, 5 to 1, but they are equidistance, 5 to 4, 4 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 1. I can also say neutral is 0, dissatisfied is -1, satisfied is 1, highly dissatisfied is it's a +2, and highly dissatisfied is -2. Then again, I'm assigning an interval to my responses. Hence, we say this is an interval data. But in normal language, we say scale data. But what will now happen, apart from count and percentage, you can go ahead and find a mean. So mean cannot be found in the earlier two cases, in nominal and ordinal. Here you can find the mean of something. I hope things are getting a little clear. Now we move to the next level. Under scale data, here, do you think I can judge the performance of the entire workshop and answer satisfaction level of the respondent for the workshop just by asking one sentence? Or workshop contains some attributes? Do you think workshop contains like quality of the resource person that we invited, the content covered, the coordination system of the teaching and non-teaching staff, the structure of the workshop? This all together says that yes, this is the satisfaction level. So you should have a reflective formative scale. So this is in terms of scale, or this automatically replaces the nature of ratio data, and then it is ready to be judged, to be go ahead with the parametric test. So your measurement scale should have this kind of questions. Only then you can say that now you can use parametric test. If I use this sentence, rate the statistical level highly satisfied, dissatisfied, then this automatically becomes ordinal data. It won't stay in scale for long. Likert scale has its own property that you should check your attributes with some constructs, some more variables with one factor. I hope this is clear. So I'm not wasting more of the time. Yeah. So now you can do inferential analysis, that is parametric testing or hypothesis testing, if you have this kind of skill with you, this kind of questions with you. So in your question, you should know which questions should go for nominal, which question should go for ordinal, which for interval, and which for the ratio data. So your first assumption is clear. First assumption that parametric should have metric data. Now let us go to the next one. Ma'am, we have time till 11:30.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The next assumption of the parametric test that you can use is the normality of data. Now there is a lot of confusion regarding normality and stress. It's very simple. Nothing great about it. In mean, you have to take care of two things. See, I'll tell you something. In mean, if you know this basic fundamental of mean, I think there should not be a problem. See, in mean, the data that is collected, and so you do summation, and then you divide it by the total number, right? This is how you get derive at the mean. The mean score that you get is one thing. Second is difference. I am a non-statistical student, so I will use the language the way I understand statistics. Difference between each value from mean. You understand? You all understand this? Those who understand statistics, itna dimag lagane ki zarurat nahi hai. I am sharing this with the people like me who don't understand statistics so easily. So I have my own way of understanding stuff. So I'm explaining to those, only those participants who get a little confused. If you have this conceptual clarity, I think any test is easy for you to apply. That under mean, you have mean score. So you have all the data, you did the totaling or summation, and you divide with the number of unit, and you get the mean score. So value which describes the entire data. Okay, done. Now, again, there is something known as standard deviation. That if my mean is equidistant or have some similar distance from each value, they are just different from 4 to 5 units, say for example out of 10. But if your data has something which is a huge distance, your mean score says 70 and the student has scored 25, the difference between the value is so huge. How can you represent that unit in your data then? Then that data is not homogeneous data. That's how we predict the homogeneity. See, normality refers to a specific statistical distribution called a normal distribution, or sometimes a Gaussian distribution or bell-shaped curve. The normal distribution is a symmetrical continuous distribution defined by the mean and standard deviation of the data. It should look like this. So what if the data is concentrating just to this, everybody saying just same thing? What will happen? Exactly, every participant, I asked them that how did you find this workshop? Highly satisfied to dissatisfied to 1. Everybody said 5. Do you think we can rely on such kind of data? Another question, what if the 100 students, of which 20 said not satisfied, 25 said satisfied, and then when you plot the data, you saw that there is no bell shape coming up. Side of effect ho gaya, set off ho jata hai samne samne, then there is no effect. You will not find any relationship of the workshop and the satisfaction level of the participants. But there has to be some homogeneity of the data, normality. The data should be normally distributed, means you don't have extreme values. Your data are concentrating towards mean. The standard deviation is less. More the standard deviation, the bell will come down. How to check the normality of data? So there are different ways of checking the normality of data. One is graphical way and one is statistical way. In graphical way, there is a histogram. The one which I missed is scatter diagram. Scatter diagram also tells you box plot, PP plot, QQ plot. This all will tell you the when you plot your responses. Graphically, you can tell whether your data is normal or not. If your data are not normal, you cannot use mean. Hence, you cannot use parametric test. I hope you got the idea. If you remember, we plotted those marks of students, of 10 students. If somebody have got 35 and remaining never, all other have got around 70, 65, which shows that the teaching methodology used for the students is good enough. But there is one student who's got 35, the entire mean will be disturbed and the responses will not, the way when we plot it will not give you a good bell-shaped data. So there are values that are creating a noise and not making the data normal data to go ahead with the parametric test. Correct? Under statistical way, there are Shapiro-Wilks test, Colombo-Simronov test. Then there is some also known as some Anderson-Darling test, which I have not mentioned here. Even that test is there, and there is a significant value, and you can check whether data is normal or not. Some of the example of graphical presentation. If your data is something like this, it means your data is not normal. See in QQ in the normal plot, it is rotating. That line is the average, and others are the variances or the units, and check the variances between the data. Even box plot will tell you whether your data is normal or not. So this was the second condition of normality. A Levin test will check the homogeneity in the data. It will not check the normality. Levin test is used to check the homozygosity in your data, whether there is some homozygosity in your data or not. Now, what is this? The assumption of the homozygosity means same variance in central and linear regression model. Describes a situation in which error term, that is noise of the random disturbance in the relationship between independent variables and dependent, is the same across all the values of independent variables. Now, maybe you get confused. Exactly what are you trying to say? We are checking that how far is each unit, how much the variations are there in your data. In short, if more of the variation, then I don't think you can go ahead with the parametric test, because again it will disturb the mean. There is somebody who's raising hand. Sri Lakshmi, can you ask her to raise the question in the chat box? I can ask her or unmute, whatever you all feel.
Right now, you would like to take that question?
I don't mind. What, something emergency must have come up, maybe. Just raised her hand. Or else what you can do is, dear, you can post your question in the chat box. I'll answer it. So, homogeneity of the data tells us about the how homogeneous are the data. See, always remember the basic fundamental of the research. Two things. It should not be completely heterogeneous. मान लो 10 लोगों का डेटा दिया, 10 आंसर आया, कुछ भी कॉमन नहीं है. What research? Exactly. What research? Research is always for the pattern. Something is moving, something is varying, but in a pattern. So the heterogeneity, if it is present in your data, that the variances are huge between the independent and dependent variable, then there is a problem with your data. Like for an example, I think I have taken one example here. Some example that if you want to study the family income and spending on luxury items, just keep these two things, two variables. We collected a data for family income and spending on luxury items. It was but obvious that when the family income was very less, the spending on the luxury items was less. True, good enough. But we also got an idea that, well, maybe those families whose income were very high did not spend on the luxury items. So independent and dependent variables have a different kind of variances. They do not follow the same path. Hence, we say it is not good enough for us to compare the means of such unhomogeneous or heterogeneous data. Then we cannot use mean here, and hence we cannot use parametric test. I think now the concept of under homogeneity, we check the variances in both the variables that we are checking. With the family income increasing, definitely with a higher income you spend, with a lower income, but in the higher income, possibly there is a mindset or an attitude of the people, we don't spend in luxury items, we save, we do further investment. But the person who do not have any income will not have a luxury item. हाँ, वो चोरी करके लेकर आता है तो बात अलग है, लोन पे लेता है तो अलग है, but then economically rational human being will not buy the car. Now next is okay, test for this is Levin test. Brown test भी होता है, Levin test होता है. ANOVA भी बताता है कि whether those the data independent and dependent variable have homogeneity in the data or not. Linearity of data, the data should be linear. Now what is this linear? Again, to give you a simple example, with the increasing age your IQ should increase. 1 साल के बच्चे का IQ, 2 साल के बच्चे का IQ, 3 साल के 4, 5 years. What will happen after 15 years, 20, 25 years? Again your IQ will go up? No. At certain point of time, conceptually, the IQ will not go up with the increasing age. You getting my point? Even the height, certain age, yes, the height and age will have certain relationship, but after that it is not linear. It will stop somewhere. Learning curve. You learn something new with the time decreases and your adaptability increases, but after some time it will come down. So the regression for such kind of situation, we have a different test, non-parametric. And then independence of data should be cross-sectional. Other data. Example, the best way to remember this is in the experimental method. For example, I collected the data from you all once. So what the data that I have, 100 data are from the respondent once, and I draw the conclusion. But what I did, I collected the data from 25 respondents today. Again, tomorrow I am collecting. Third day I am collecting data from this again same 25. What am I doing? Those answers will be related. I am collecting the data from the same group again and again. These are the longitudinal data for which they have a different test. This parametric test here, and these are experiments. So your data should be cross-sectional. You have collected the data once from all the respondents. So these 5 assumptions are very important. Check when you use parametric test. I hope you remember these 5 assumptions. Can you quickly write down in the chat box which are the 5? Five assumptions that you should remember. That these are the 5 assumptions that I should be having when you use parametric test. Okay, I just repeat: 1, measurement scale, homogeneity, normality, linearity, and independence of the data. 5 assumptions. I hope this, whenever you are now going ready for the data, you will check. Now the question arises. Some may think my question, not use parametric test. See, measurement scale is you are framing up and you are asking in such a way that you get a data in scale form. What if the data that you are receiving are not normal? There are more of outliers. There is a concept of outliers. In my examples of the marks that students have received, 60, 65, 70, 72, but there was one student who got high, or someone got 25. They are outliers for me. They will not give me a true result. So they are. So what can be done? So there are a method of transformation, deduction and transformation. But then that requires a lot of that is a cleaning of data. But I think I can ignore that part as of now, huh? Because it again requires a lot of statistical knowledge. But I will help you with this, that yes, if your data is not normal, you can way of doing that is when you collect data. Nowadays we do online. During offline, how they used to avoid the problem of normality was when the physical forms were collected, they just used to browse once. And when they said there are extreme people, that people have not marked up appropriate answers, you felt that सिर्फ ऐसे देखकर टिक करके दे दिया है, it means this is going to disturb my data normality. You can remove that question. They used to do it that way. Right? Another way in the online, when you collect, you can just browse those values. If you saw that out of 100, people are answering between 5 and 4, 5, 4, but there is one respondent answering 1, and all the response is 1. Some gadbad is there. Correct? So that way you can do it. So parametric test में कितने test होते हैं? Okay, one more thing. What we check in parametric test? See, there are 3 things to remember that you check. That comes to my mind is, one, you compare the mean. I want to compare the satisfaction level of the male participants and female participants. I want to know the satisfaction level of the participants for this workshop and their perception before they started this workshop. 2 means I want to compare. Then I want to know the correlation, cause and effect relationship, regression. And I want to predict if X changes. There is a correlation says that yes, X and Y has a relationship. X will influence Y. Regression will tell how much. So if X is moved to 1 unit, how much Y will change? All this works on mean, and all these kind of things we check in the parametric test. So one is sample T test, which compares the mean. When you compare the pair test, there is some pairing of male-female satisfaction level, then they are doing some pairing. Then there is something known as differences that you are studying between the 2 variables. It is more on the category basis. Then you use ANOVA. On the non-parametric test, again you use the same thing, but Mann-Whitney, Wilcoxon, what they do is they work on median. So median निकाल के mean निकाल के वो test run करते हैं. They also give the result, but the results are not so good, that I already explained you. How to choose an appropriate test? So there are some checklists that you can remember. Check the nature of variables. तो देखो तुम्हारे पास कितने वेरिएबल है, कॉन्सेप्ट कैसे बैठता है, IDV, DV, mediating, moderating, which kind of data is this? You have asked them yes, no. You have asked them scale. You have asked them reflective scale. Then it is metric or non-metric put into a category. If it is a single sentence and scale, interval is used, but it is not the scale data. It will not come under metric. Do you like research subject? Highly, matlab most liked to least liked. So, ma'am, this is scale. No. I asked you, do you like to collect data? Are you interested in finding new facts? Do you like to do a review of literature? So 4, 5 things will describe one factor. Then that becomes reflective. There you will get an appropriate answer. Number of categories in the case of non-metric data. If your data is non-metric, one of your variable is non-metric, and that non-metric ki categories kitni hai? 2, 3, 4, 5. If it is less than 2, which kind of test I can use? If it is more than 2, which kind of test I can use? So then you have to remember variables, number of variables. If you have 2 independent variable and 1 dependent variable, or you have 1 independent variable but 2 dependent variable, something like that. Multivariate analysis and metric, non-metric, and categories. Now see, you will have the answers ready for you. If you have one variable, univariate study, I want to study the marks of the students in the class. I want to study the how many of them are using mobile wallet nowadays. Mobile wallet is one variable. How many are using it just becomes an category. So it is an non-metric data, count percentage. Frequency of using, it is a metric data, mean one sample test. You have no other variable to compare with. You can draw mean, that's it. If your dependent variable, D is dependent variable is 1, independent variable is 1. But under that, if the data is metric, if you are using scale or ratio data, you will use sample regression and hypothesis testing of t-test, f-test, one-way ANOVA. Now, what is this t-test, f-test, and test, z-test? I will cover it in the last slide. If the one of your independent variable is binary, is non-metric, and your independent variable is metric, you use binary regression. ये combination से आपको आंसर मिल जाएगा exactly कौन सी टेस्ट यूज करनी है. T-test, when you have only two categories, the answers were in two categories. But if the answers were in more than two categories, male, female, and others, F-test. Again, this dependent value is 1, metric, non-metric, check. And when then IDV is more than 1, if it is two independent sample t-tests, all are metric, multiple regression, all are non-metric, and we ANOVA, two-way ANOVA. So this is how you identify which test you should be using. If you have these circumstances, how many independent variable, which kind of variable, whether the variable that I am studying were collected in the form of metric data or non-metric data. And hence, when the questionnaire contains more of questions like yes and no and non-metric, a very poor form of tests are conducted, which works only on median, and the results are not so appropriate. Okay, I think I didn't include the slide for t-test, f-test, and z-test. If the sample size is less than 30, you use t-test to compare any mean. If the sample size is more than 30, use z-test. Those tests automatically become z-test. But when do you use f-test? F-test का भी option आता है जब तुम data analysis करते हो. When the response categories, the question categories has more than two categories, then you go for F-test. So this is how you study your hypothesis testing. There are a number of questions that must be coming in your mind, because what I have attempted to do is I am sharing this information with the commerce economic background students or the participants, and not pure statistics. So I have refrained myself using more of statistics here. So I guess, yeah. So these are the a group of family. When you have one sample, you have two samples. What can be done? What is this one sample, two sample? If you are studying a behavior of working woman and non-working woman, two samples. People staying in urban area and rural area, two samples, that way. So now let's attend questions here. Ma'am, I have doubt with regards to t-test and z-test. Is that the test is used, the sample is less than? Yes, that's what I said. Is generally CT tests are applied testing. Is there any like no? See, what happens when you apply test, we look at the t value, but they are known as z-test statistically. Descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. See, when you collect the data and you prepare a tabular form. How many were male, female, and from which region they are. You are just explaining data and putting a data in a tabular format. You are describing the data, descriptive analysis. You are not making any analysis out of it. But when you are drawing some hypothetical situation, whether there is some relationship or there is an impact or there is a differences, then you can say it is an inferential analysis. Okay, one more thing. A small suggestion. In your research title, avoid using word impact if you are not doing experimental study. See, I'll give you an example. I asked you a question here in your, just a second. Huh? तुम्हारा ये वर्कशॉप की एनालिसिस करते हैं हम सेटिस्फैक्शन लेवल. So then I say that okay, so we assume that through this RM workshops, the knowledge of the participants for the RM increases, it enhances. So can I say that there is an impact of RM workshop on participants' knowledge? Now, why do I say that? I feel, this is my understanding, why should not I use impact? See, how will I study? There are 2-3 ways of doing this. One is, I will ask a survey from you all, saying that you please give our feedback regarding the, did it help you to gain more knowledge? Correct? So conceptually, तो ऐसा हम लिख ही नहीं सकते that there is no influence of the participants' knowledge. We will say satisfaction level of the participants. In this case, you can do inferential analysis. You can do questionnaire-based testing. But what if you want to know the impact? Impact can be studied only in 2 ways. One is test retest. I will first take a test before the workshop starts, put a 10 question across you all, you will answer and I have some performance with me. After the workshop is conducted, I will again check the response, the results, and check if there was a substantial difference in the results. Initially people got 50%, now they got 75, 70, 80%, which means yes, workshop was impactful or had a great impact on the participants' knowledge. Correct. Another way can be, if I have 100 researchers with me, of which I will allow only 50 participants with me. I will give them one concept. I will explain these concepts. I will conduct test of 100, 50 constant group who have not attended my workshop, 50 who have attended my workshop, and then I will collect the data and I will compare. I will pair them and I'll compare the results. That will give me an impact of the of something on something. That is an actual experimental study. But once you say, it is very difficult. If you are not able to do experimental study, avoid using word impact. You say influence or there is some relationship. Got it? Any other questions that you all have? I think I wind up a little early today. I didn't cover few more things. The data is not normally distributed, we assume it is normally distributed and we go for a parametric test. According to central limit theorem, though the data is not normally distributed, how can you, if the, see what happens when the data is not normal, it means it has extreme values, it has outliers, they're not normally distributed. And if it is not normally distributed, definitely it will affect the mean, and once mean is affected, then you cannot use parametric test. Then you have to obviously use median, because median क्या करेगा, extreme values को ignore करके result देगा. So All the best to all the researchers there. I hope I have tried my best to justify the topic. In these 2 days, you must have learned what is hypothesis, how should you derive hypothesis from your variables, and from variables, from where you get your variables, it is from review of literature. So now just understand the relationship between a kind of ROL you do and your test results. If your ROL is good, your variables are nice, you prepare a proper systematic hypothesis, accordingly you choose a proper measurement of scale, मतलब questionnaire बराबर बनाया, उसमें responses वैसे collect किए, then you can go for a nice test and then your results are good and then your paper will be accepted in the good journal. That's how the whole logic is.
Participants, if there are any more questions, you can put it in the chat box. Otherwise, we can wind up with this session. Ma'am, I don't think there are any more questions. So shall we wind up?
Kyati ma'am, you did a wonderful job. You did a wonderful job. You had your own apprehension about it, but you were wrong actually. You can really do wonders. Yes. Very nice. I think Sri Lakshmi, you can go ahead. We are actually on time. Very nice.
Yes. So I would like to take this opportunity to propose a formal vote of thanks. I would like to thank the resource person for this session, Dr. Kyati Hora, for conducting such an engaging session. Ma'am, with the simple pictorial representations, exercises to test our level of understanding, and minute details of varied concepts, it has definitely boosted our confidence of many of us in contributing to our and continuing our research work. So thank you so much for this wonderful session. I'm also grateful to the management and principal for promoting and being supportive of such research-based workshops. I express my gratitude for the conduction of such workshops by our IQAC coordinator and vice principal, Dr. Liji Santosh, wherein we get to learn from the best and never settle for the less. And I'm grateful to our vice principal, Professor Sandesha Shetty, and also the organizing team for their constant support. I would also like to thank our technical team for their technical assistance throughout the session. A big thank you to my colleagues for attending the session and being such a support. And at last, but not at all the least, a special thanks to all the attendees for your active participation and cooperation. Without you, it wouldn't have been possible to conduct such a engaging and enlightening session. So thank you to all. Our second session will begin at 11:45. So you may stay in the meeting or kindly join on time. So thank you so much.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Kyati ma'am. Left.
The recording
Yes,
has stopped.
So participants